Hello and welcome to another episode of the A-10 Insider Podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Doster. That guy you see with me is Jeff Goodman, and we are going to be joined later in a fun interview that Jeff was able to land with Anthony Grant, the head coach of the team with the best record in the A-10 right now. That is the Dayton Flyers. They are 11-2. They are in first place, 1-0 in the conference. And I say 1-0 because conference play has just kicked off. Nobody's played more than one game. Richmond still has not played a league game. And we had some weird results in the first week of the A-10 conference season. GW went down after an 11-2 start to the season. VCU went down. St. Bonaventure has been as hot as anybody in college basketball. They've won 8 of their last 9 games. The only loss came against a top 20 team in FAU. And our darling, the team that I picked to win the A-10 this season, St. Joe's, they went down to Archie Miller and Rhode Island. And to me, Jeff, I think what we learned from the first week of conference play, not just in the A-10, but in college basketball as a whole, playing at home is a big advantage when you get to conference season.
Yeah, I mean, it always has been, but I think around this time of year too, you're gonna see some kind of funky results. And let's face it, this year, with all the transfers and all the new rosters around the country, it's going to take some teams. Some teams are going to come out of the gates quicker just because maybe they have more returning players. Some teams it's going to take a little bit longer. And again, you look at somebody like Archie Miller, like at URI, that's a huge win for him. Last year, they struggled mightily in year one. I don't think he thought they'd be as bad as they were, but he knows they've got more talent this year. And I saw him a couple of weeks ago down here in Charleston, and they struggled. But to get a win, I just saw St. Joe's down here in Charleston about a week ago. And I think St. Joe's is more talented. But like you said, home court advantage, little home cooking, and the fact that you've now given Archie some time to figure out his team, which he needed because it was a complete turnover.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is this, and I wrote a piece on where A-10 basketball is right now. The context that all of this is happening, like when you see teams in the league beat up on each other a little bit, the context is different than it was last year. At this point last season, 2 of the teams in the A-10 were top 100 in the net. This year, 8 of the teams in the A-10 are top 100 in the net. Last season, if you look at just the overall Division I winning percentage at this point of the year, it was 67% for the Atlantic 10. I'm sorry, it was 59% last year. It's 67% in the Atlantic 10 this year. Last year, when the season ended, they finished 13th in terms of KenPom's conference rankings. They are 8th right now. 13th at this moment in time is the WAC. That should put into context where they were last year and put into context where they are this year. They rank the A-10 overall on KenPom ranks above the American in terms of the conference rankings, the league that has Memphis and FAU in it. So when you see something like a Fordham team that we thought was going to be top 4 coming into the season, going on the road and beating GW, I think that says more about how good and balanced the league is than it does about anything with GW at the top.
Deep. That's the difference now. It's much deeper because you're going to give like Archie Miller, Frank Martin a year to get their feet under them at those places. You know they're going to get better. And they were the ones that were kind of, holding it back a little bit last year because, again, it was year one. So, I think the depth of this
Put Fran Dunphy in that conversation as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think the depth of the league is so good right now. And again, now you've got a chance to get, really 2-3 bids this year and then take another step forward. Because I think, again, Archie Miller, Frank Martin, those guys in year 3 are going to be even better than in year 2. Billy Lang's got talent there at St. Joe's. They play a little wild at times, and I think that's part of the reason you're going to see the ups and downs with the Hawks this year. When they get going, man, their guards can beat almost anybody, as they showed at Kentucky. But then, again, they'll have those games where maybe they won't take care of the ball. They'll take some tough shots, questionable shots that could hurt them.
Yeah. I did just want to call out a couple of things in the conference overall. I think we all kind of agree that Dayton is probably the best team and Deron Holmes is probably the best player. But like UMass, their front court is as good as any front court that you're going to find, right? I don't know if I'd be willing to say they're better than anyone, but they're as good as they're not going to be beaten by anybody. Josh Cohen is averaging 16-6. Matt Cross in his 27th school in the last 23 seasons
Hey,
is averaging 16.5 points, 8.2 boards, 3.3 assists.
and he
Rasul
drives the
Diggins has been really
bus.
good for them as well. Yeah, and he drives the bus. Then your guy Keyshawn Hall,
Oh,
big
love it.
guard,
God, I
averaging
love
17, and he's almost averaging a double-double as he calls himself a big guard. So
He's not wait,
there's
wait, wait. He used to be a big, big, big guard. Now he's not nearly as big. I mean, he lost like 50 pounds. He can still call himself a big guard, but he's nowhere near as big as he used to be.
yeah, he needs to teach you how he did that, Goodman.
Yeah,
And then
no
and then
question. That's a great
so
idea.
yeah, so you gotta love what's happening at George Mason. I love what's going on at GW. I do think that as those two programs, like those are the two ones to me where you can really raise the ceiling for what the A-10 is, because I mean it's DC basketball. DC basketball is passionate. Those are two programs that have a storied tradition of success, and a couple of young coaches in Caputo and Tony Skinn. They know how to win. They've both been to Final Fours before,
They
and
know
they
each
are
other.
young enough. Yeah,
They know
yeah,
each
they're
other.
young enough where they're going to grind up. So I'm bullish on where the A-10s. All of this stuff is cyclical. I'm bullish on where the A-10's headed.
Yeah, Skin's a little bit. He looks a lot younger than Computer.
You always got to take a shot at them. So what's tease a little bit? What's the
Yeah,
conversation with Anthony Grant about?
again, you know where I stand with Anthony Grant. Like amongst all the coaches in America, that dude might be my favorite guy. And again, a lot of people might be surprised to hear me say that because he's not the loosest guy in the world. I've known him for so long. I try to loosen him up in this interview. I try to get him going, and that is hard. Like, I hit some people close to him, try to get some dirt on him. I got a little bit, but Anthony, accommodate. He's just so insightful, so honest, stays so true to who he is and what he's been. Um, he also tells a story about when his playing career ended, and it did not come while he was playing at Dayton. It came while he was an assistant coach at Florida. So pretty funny story. Maybe not so funny to Anthony, but really good conversation that we touch on a variety of topics, including Deron Holmes and the comparison, both on and off the court, to Al Horford.
All right. Well, let's get into that interview with Anthony Grant. As always, make sure you rate, review, like, subscribe, do all of those things that are going to make us happy as podcasters. Jeff, let's cut to that interview. Anthony Grant, Dayton head coach.
All right, now pleased to be joined by Dayton head coach Anthony Grant here on the A-10 Insider Pod. And Anthony, 12-2. If I had told you 12-2 after losing your starting point guard, Malachi Smith, before the season, all right, tell me what you would have honestly said.
Well, Malachi is such a big part of what we do, and so that was a big hit for us. I felt like we had a good team, you know, but certainly, I'm pleased with where we are, 12-2. You look at, and the season is it's a progression, right? And so you just want to continue to get better. So I think we've done that. Obviously we dropped a couple there, on the road at Northwestern, and then against a very, very good Houston team in Charleston. So I like the progression our team's making, but certainly, I still feel, certainly you heard from Malachi and his loss, and certainly, the other side of that is what it means to our team, but more importantly, just a kid that has been through so much to try to get himself back, to have to go through that and have to miss the year. You heard from him, but certainly proud of what our guys have done.
So you go to my neck of the woods in Massachusetts, and you get a transfer in Bennett, who's been terrific for Merrimack. Really, really
Yeah.
good. I don't know if you even knew like how good he was going to be able to fill in here at a spot where you needed it desperately.
Yeah.
But I think with him and Kobe, I don't want to say you haven't missed a beat, but they've done a really good job plugging that hole. Which again, you and I both know, without good point guard play, you're in trouble in college basketball.
Yeah. No, we've been very fortunate. Obviously you mentioned, Javon, Kobe Elvis. When you look at last year, Jeff, Malachi got hurt at the beginning of the year. He missed the first 6 games, and we played Elvis at the point, and it was unnatural, uncomfortable for him. that transition from being primarily off the ball to being on the ball. So, to see the transformation and the maturity in him this year in terms of his growth from the previous year to this year is impressive, as is, what Javon's been able to do coming in, his first year in the program, obviously second year in college basketball, to be able to make that transition to learn a new system, new terminology, new teammates, and to be able to have the impact he's having.
Don't you feel like the best way to do this in this new era of the portal, if you can bring back a bunch of guys, and then you're going to have to add some new guys every year. Like, there are very few Purdue's out there, right? FAU's out there that can just say, like, we're going to bring everybody back. I think you guys have done a pretty good job of that, right? Returning guys and key guys that know you, that know your culture. And then, listen, you got to get a little bit lucky with who you bring in from the portal, because the portal's so crazy. You can do all the research you want, but it moves so quickly that you can make mistakes through the portal. But I feel like you guys have the perfect mix of returners and then bringing in guys that really have kind of fit into the culture that you want, and fit in because you got like Nate has been awesome this year.
Yeah. And I think, we all know recruiting's never going to be an exact science, right? Sometimes you're gonna miss on some. Sometimes you're gonna get it right. And sometimes guys that you don't really think, or you didn't have a plan for playing a big role, all of a sudden you're surprised by how well they fit, right? And so I think for us, we got a really good mix of returners, some veterans that have been in the program, been in the system, that have kind of, been tested and been scarred, so to speak, with the experience you go through as a college basketball player for a couple of seasons. And then we've got a nice mix of guys that aren't new to college basketball, but are new to us, right? And they blended really well. And then we've got a young group, right, that are new to college basketball and new to us, that have come in and they're learning our culture. They're learning what college basketball is all about. And so I think it's a credit to, number one, the character of the guys that our staff has brought in terms of understanding who we are as a program, what fits at Dayton, in this community, in this program, right? And then the character of the group to come together and to blend and get along, and they've done a really good job of that. So I think, to me, that's as big as obviously having the talent, that can get out there and perform and get it done. So yeah, we've been fortunate with that.
Last year, you played two bigs, and they're super talented bigs, but we both know the game has kind of changed a little bit, right? This year, certainly more guard oriented, 4 guards around Duran. And, it's kind of the way the game has gone, whether it's NBA, whether it's college. How different has that been for you this year, going from playing those two bigs to more guards? And you guys are shooting the heck out of the ball too, which helps.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, Jeff, I'll always say this, man. Tumani Kamara was fun to coach. He was really, really good, man. And you're seeing what he's doing in the NBA is what he did for us. And so I take a lot of joy in that, and seeing a guy that can understand, who he is and how he impacts the game, and to see it rewarded, and to give him the opportunity that he's gotten over in Portland. So I'm really, really proud of him. But yeah, so I mean, we've been fortunate that we've been able to get some guys in, the Nate Santos, Enoch Cheeks, Javon Bennett, Isaac Jack. Those guys, came to us through the portal, and they fit really well, in terms of the way we want to play, and the things that we want to do. And yeah, so I think they blended really well. We took that trip this summer overseas, and they had a chance to bond as a group and kind of play together and figure each other out. So I think it's working out pretty well for us.
All right. Speaking of that trip to Barcelona and Paris, my sources tell me there is video out there somewhere of you dancing. Is this true? In Paris, you dancing?
I have no recollection of any video.
I'm told it's out there.
I may misremember, Jeff. I may misremember.
Listen, if I get a hold of that video, you and I both know that that is going on Twitter right away, right away, because there's video of me dancing at Jeff Borzello's wedding, And Rob Doster keeps putting it out there, and it is about the most embarrassing video because you got to be a better dancer than I am.
No, no. I'm a brother with no rhythm, no dance moves, no none of that. So yeah, I try to avoid those situations as much as possible.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But if you get a few drinks in me at a wedding, evidently I forget that I have no rhythm.
I got you. I got you.
All right, a couple other things. You know, you try to get some dirt on you, and we've known each other for 20 years, and it is not easy. It's not easy to get some funny, dirt on you. Like you're people. Now, again, I didn't get Billy Donovan yet today. I think Billy would have given me some good dirt on you. But I did go to some people, and they're like, "Yeah, there's just not a lot there." Donnie Jones said they used to call you Batman because of your physique back in Florida. And the rumor is you don't even like work out now, and you still look like you've been working out every single day.
Yeah, you hadn't seen me lately, Jeff. You hadn't seen me lately.
Yeah, the sweatshirt does well.
Season can take a little toll on you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Rumor is you eat basically the same thing. You don't stray too much. Same food, same meal, same place.
Well,
what's the go-to?
You know what? There's a spot here in Dayton, Dorothy Lane Market.
Yeah,
it's my go-to. So if you're ever in town and you want to get a sighting, just go post up there for a couple of hours around the lunch hour, and I'll show up at some point. But no, I guess I'm pretty routine guy. I like soups for lunch, and they have a variety of different soups or a salad. I'll go get a salad. Occasional sushi. So they got just a lot of different stuff that you can pick from. And so, yeah, I enjoy that, but yeah, the workout routine.
Did that end?
It's not what it used to be.
Did that end when you blew out your knee playing against the Florida students? Was that it?
That was the end of my basketball playing career.
When was that?
That shut it down.
Was that pickup like?
No, so we actually every year what Billy would do is he'd have a 3-on-3 challenge with the students.
Yeah.
And if anybody beat us, they got to go on a road trip with us. So we take them on the plane and they come with us. And so yeah, we had 1 year where we got beat. Actually, James Kane, who's on my staff now, he put together a team that actually beat us. That was the only loss we had. And I don't know how many years we did it. I don't remember if it was that year or the year after that ruptured my quadricep tendon. And I think I ended up coming back that next year, kind of like a Charles Barkley type thing where I said, okay, I'm gonna do it one more year just to prove to myself I can do it. And then that was it. Shut it down.
Did Billy play in those games too, or no?
Oh yeah. It was started off. Now, again, we were relatively young back then now. So it was Billy, it was John Pelfrey,
yeah,
Donnie Jones,
yeah,
and myself. All right. And so we just had a little rotation in there. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Give me your favorite recruiting story going out with Billy on the road. Give me your favorite one. That you can actually repeat, because a lot of them with Billy. A lot of them with Billy, you can't repeat.
We had some good ones, man.
Like an in-home, maybe even an in-home, which they don't exist nearly like they used to. It could be anything.
Yeah. Well, the best in-home we ever did was with Lee Humphrey. Right. And so I think Lee had actually already committed to us. Right. And so we go to do the in-home, and mom, dad, and grandma, they had a plan. We didn't. They told us. I can't remember what they told us, but we show up to the home and we're thinking we're going to do an in-home visit, with the presentation and everything. Even though he'd already committed, that we have questions. They put us in the car. We go out to the lake and we just go out on the boat. Leaves water skiing. We're tubing. We're just hanging out. We come home and grandma's made some desserts for us, and we got back and went back home. Didn't talk one thing about not one thing about basketball, not one thing about nothing. It was just, hey, let's go have a good time. So that's pretty memorable.
Do you remember the first time you saw Joakim Noah play in high school or AU? Because I do, in Providence. And
Yeah, I think the first time I saw him was at the old ABCD camp
yeah,
up in Jersey, and just a long, skinny kid just running up and down with a lot of energy. Yeah, it was pretty impressive.
he was one of a kind. He was one of a
Yeah,
kind as a
yeah,
personality. I'm not sure we've
yeah.
seen anybody come through like
Jeff,
him.
he's yeah. I tell you what, he's one of those guys. And it's rare when a guy walks in the room and the room brightens up.
Yep.
The lights just get a little brighter, and it's
Yeah.
like, wow, there's a personality that's in the room. He was a unique individual, just a joy to be around, and certainly, I think he's. Did I see somewhere recently where he's got a chance to be uh, inducted into a Hall of Fame somewhere,
Maybe.
or maybe
Yeah.
yeah,
How
yeah,
about Big Al?
yeah,
Still putting up
yeah, man,
numbers. I mean,
yeah,
listen,
yeah.
he's got a chance to really win it
What
all
year is
this
this for
year.
him? What
Yeah.
year is this for him? 15,
It's got to be 15.
16?
Yeah. And you know what?
Yeah.
Like that locker room in Boston right now with the Celtics is perfect because those
Okay.
young guys have grown up. Tatum's grown up. And like I think Al actually is a little more vocal than he's ever been, understanding that this is probably it for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeff, one of the best human beings, one of the best leaders,
Yeah.
one of the highest character people that he'll be the standard,
Yes.
in terms of,
Yep.
and I've said this, we got a kid now, Deron Holmes,
Yep.
that is the closest thing I've seen to that.
Really? Wow.
In terms of what he's all about and who he is, and
Yeah.
and yeah, so just certainly, yeah, I've been fortunate, man, to be around some really, really good people.
I was going to ask you about Duran and his kind of leadership, and
Yeah,
I love being around him. I mean, he's just a fun, he seems like just always in a good mood.
yeah,
Understands kind of a lot of players that are at his level that are that good aren't able to like self-reflect and understand where they need to get better. And I think Duran
yeah,
has shown that, right?
yeah,
Like kids
yeah.
can't take
I
a
think,
lot of kids can't take criticism anymore.
yeah,
And
Jeff, I
and he,
think you hit it on the head with him. I think he has a very, very good grasp of his process
yeah,
of getting better and growing, and like anybody else, he hears the noise, he hears this, he hears that, but he's got an ability to eventually filter through it and keep the main thing, and understand, at I think he's 20,
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he just turned 21. But just to understand, this is a process, and his best basketball is still ahead of him, and I think that's where I see a lot of young kids um, fall into that trap of thinking, I got to be the best version of myself at 18, 19, 20.
yeah.
And if I don't, then I'm a failure. I'm letting people down, and they get ahead of what the process for them should be, and just continue to get better. And that's the thing that I think he's done a really good job of, is understanding his process. Even though some people want to speed that up, and
Yeah.
we're in that type of culture here, and I think I've seen so many kids get hurt by it, unintentionally,
Yep.
from people that have good intentions, but really, just don't understand. You're going to be the best version of yourself if you're fortunate enough to stay in the game long enough. You're not going to become the best version of yourself until you're 27, 28 years old. And you mentioned, the guys with the Celtics now are growing up. Well, how old are they? Right?
I think
26,
Tatum's
20.
25, 26. And
Yeah,
again,
and
you know,
now they're becoming, and so they got a window now to take advantage of that talent and that experience and the growth that they've had. They weren't supposed to be the best versions of themselves at 22 and 23. Right? That's the 1% of
no.
of the NBA talent that can do that, let alone everybody else.
All right. The last thing I have for you, since this is the A-10 podcast, you got to give me your favorite Frank Martin story. All right. Because you guys are boys and
Yeah.
dating back a long, long time. And give me some good dirt, because we always need good dirt on Frank Martin, right?
Oh man. Well,
You could
if
go,
I if
hey,
I
how
give
long
if I
could you
give if
go?
I give if I give you dirt on Frank, I may be giving you dirt on myself. So
Very true.
uh,
Very true. I guess forget about a story even at like what's it like to see him now? Because UMass is gotten off to a really good start. You know how hard that job is. I know how hard that job is. Because the expectations are, everybody thinks they're going to go in and repeat what John Calipari did. Well, that happened once and it's never going to happen again. But how much did you talk to Frank even through the end of South Carolina? Because he admits like it was hard for him to get fired, an ego hit, and then to come back and understand what he's got to do at UMass to rebuild it has not been easy.
Yeah, Jeff. I mean, I think it starts with when you're in this thing, the way Frank is in it, and most of us that do this are in it. It's like a marriage, man. Like you commit. And so what Frank went through at South Carolina was hard because he kind of rebuilt that thing to get to the point where it took him to a Final Four and maybe not as many wins, but he had a culture. He had a lot of people that were understood who he was as a man and what he was trying to do for that program and for the kids and the way he was doing it. So that's always difficult. But to see him, be able to move quickly to the next thing and say, okay, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna try to build something, right? And to see him go through, what was a challenging first year last year, from an injury standpoint, and then obviously having to retool the team this year. That's Frank. He's just a guy that puts his head down and he works, and he builds culture. He builds toughness in kids, and we've talked a lot about this before about the side that the fan base or the people outside of the circle see, with the volatility and the emotions and the things like that. But
he's a big teddy bear. He's a big teddy bear off the court.
Well, Jeff, at the end of the day, the kids know that he loves them, and that he'd do anything for them, and that he wants what's in their best interest. And at the end of the day, that's what this thing is supposed to be about.
Sure is.
We've made it. We've unfortunately, the adults, the leaders have made it about, something that it really was never supposed to be. This is entertainment, man. This is sport. You know what I mean? It's not life or death, man. It's about growing kids and growing men. And, used to be a time where you went to college to get an education, to get a degree so that you can better your life and have opportunities to open doors for yourself. And the percent of guys that were fortunate enough to continue to play after college, that was a bonus. That was the extra. Now it's like the expectation is, well, every kid on your team should get this and should do this. And, like that degree stuff, that school stuff, like what are you talking about? Like, who cares about that? Well, that's the lie. That's the lie that we're feeding kids. So hopefully, we get to a point where just where college basketball is now, that we don't take steps back and we start to see, what it was maybe a few decades ago where, half the kids are playing sports and they're walking out without a degree, right? And all of a sudden now, that little bit of money that they were able to make in NIL is not enough to pay for them to go back and get that degree. And they're trying to figure out, okay, what do I do with my life now? I don't know. Maybe I'm old school, but I still think that stuff matters, man. I think it matters, and I think we have a responsibility to the kids to try to help them understand that, and it seems like the adults are the ones that have forgotten, what this thing is supposed to be all about. So I think Frank is cut from that cloth where it's about development, it's about character, it's about substance, it's about building toughness, building a level of grit in the people that he has a chance to associate with. And so to me, that's always going to be, it's great to see the winning and the success come with that for him. So love the guy, man. That's our next game.
Oh, that's right.
Hate playing against him because one of us is going to walk away, with the loss. But he's a super coach, Superman.
It's funny because you guys, your personalities are very different, but the core of what you're about is kind of the same.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of from the guy that raised us, so to speak, and Shaky Rodriguez, and the culture we had at Miami High and the way we went about doing it there. It's just kind of ingrained in you, So that's each one teach one. That's the culture that we grew up in.
Well, listen, appreciate you taking some time. Love seeing you. You know that.
You too,
Wish it
man.
was in
You
person.
too.
But
Happy New
always
Year,
good
brother.
to see you. You too. Happy New Year.
Okay.
Tell your wife the same, and hopefully I'll get a chance to see you soon and go out
Sounds
there
good, Jeff.
and have fun going against Frank.
All right, buddy. Take care, man.
You too.
See you.